entrusted Congressman Joey Salceda, who graciously agreed to be the inducting officer. Thank you again, Congressman Joey. In relation to recruitment, the MAP Board of Governors just approved in our board meeting earlier this morning 37 new members. These 37 members, together with 7 members that are to be inducted today, or a total of 44 new members as of this date, will soon join our ranks. Of this, 16 or 36% belong to the next gen, and 15 or 30 and extend current PPPs to ensure sustainability of the service and encourage current PPP partners to further invest technical infrastructure for long-term benefits. On labor, promote labor flexibility and welfare for quick employment generation. On fiscal policies, review the tax regime, for micro and small enterprises to help their viability, Congressman Joey Paging, and institute measures to improve tax collection efficiency. And for justice and the rule of law, strengthen faith in our institutions. So we have a good scoring in terms of the government picking up our recommendations. Our next action, therefore, would be to push further, track, and help in the implementation of these specific recommendations if need be. On our general membership meeting on March 8th, will be in celebration of International Women's Day, or IWD. And the theme of IWD is Digit All, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. And I would like to encourage all members and guests who will be attending the March 8 GMM to wear purple in support of International Women's Day. Sorry, I requested that a color of purples be displayed, but maybe, where is Alex? Alex Cabrera is now wearing the correct purple. A circular will be released soon to encourage MAP members to take photos of your employees with the IWD logo and your company logo. Please send them to the MAP Secretariat, and we will show the pictures during the March 8 GMM. So in ending, please be in the loop. Monitor your Viber and email inboxes, the MAP website, the MAP memo, our weekly electronic newspapers for more information and MAP's forthcoming activities. Thank you and good afternoon. Stay safe and be healthy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Dick. At this point, for the presentation of the new MAP members for induction, I would like to call on the chair of the MAP Membership Committee, who is also the president and CEO of the Metro Pacific Water, Secretary Babes Singson.
Good afternoon to everyone. I am pleased to announce that this afternoon we will be inducting 6 new MAP members who will increase our total membership from 1,073 to 1,079. Unfortunately, one could not make it this morning. May I now call on our inductees to come up the stage as I call his or her name, and I'd also like to ask the sponsors, if they're around, to come up and stand behind their nominees. First, I'd like to call on Dr. Sosimo M. Batad, President of the University of the East, or UE, sponsored by Dr. Esther A. Garcia and myself. I'll stand behind you. Mr. James Patrick Japs Bonus, Deputy Country Manager and CFO of FinScore Philippines, Line of Business Credit Scoring Services. Sponsor, Mr. Gigi Montinola and yours truly. Third, Mr. Arvin Arik B. Caranceja, CEO of Arik General Merchandising in the line of business of merchandising, general engineering, and construction services. Sponsors, Ms. Loli Uy and Ms. Mary Ang. Fourth, I'd like to call on Attorney Angelo A. Jimenez, President of my alma mater, University of the Philippines. Sponsors, Gigi Montinola and myself. Fifth, Mr. Alexander Sander Lau, President of Cebu Pacific. Sponsor, Gigi Montinola and yours truly. And of course, number 6, our good friend of MAP, Secretary Mon M. Jimenez, Lopez rather. Mon Lopez is the Independent Director of SM Investments Corporation and former Secretary of the Department of Trade and Industry. Sponsor, Mr. Romy Bernardo and Mr. Ted Padilla. At this point, allow me to call on our MAP President, Attorney Dick, to lead the induction of our new MAP members. May I ask everyone to please stand to add solemnity to the occasion as we welcome these 6 new members today.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do hereby solemnly pledge that I will perform well and faithfully to the best of my ability my duties as a regular member in order to contribute to the achievements of the objectives of the Management Association of the Philippines. So help me God. Congratulations. Welcome to MAP.
Congratulations. Okay, so congratulations again to the newly inducted members of MAP. We now proceed to the induction of the 2023 MAP chairs and vice chairs. May we request each chair and vice chairs to come up to the stage as his or name is called. For Agribusiness Committee, Chair Oscar Toralba, Co-Vice Chair Seden Bacani, Co-Vice Chair Ernie Ordonez, Next Gen Vice Chair Matthew Escobedo, Arts and Culture Chair Lorna Kapunan, Vice Chair Evelyn Singson, CO Conference Chair Alma Jimenez, Vice Chair Junie Del Mundo. Communications. Chair Suki Makali, Vice Chair Joshua, Next Gen Vice Chair Karen Mimo. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Chair Harold Dominguez, Co-Vice Chair Lynette Ortiz, Co-Vice Chair Randy Estrellado. Ease of Doing Business, Chair Rui Moreno, Vice Chair Jade Rojas Divina Gracia, Next Gen Vice Chair Ira Pozon. Education, Chair Poch Macaranas, Vice Chair Merceditas Ang, Next Gen Vice Chair Paulo Azurin. Subcommittee on Basic Education, Vice Chair Grace Aguiling Dalisay, Next Gen Vice Chair Anton Yap. Subcommittee on Higher Education, Vice Chair Det Nacario, Next Gen Vice Chair Teresa Menardo. Subcommittee on Lifelong Learning, Vice Chair Marivic Espano, Next Gen Vice Chair Serge Ramos. Energy, Chair Ruth Owen, Vice Chair J.R. V.B. Valles, Next Gen Vice Chair Daniel Aboitis. Environment, Chair Reggie Casas, Co-Vice Chair Chit Won, Co-Vice Chair Agnes Gervasio, Next Gen Vice Chair Riza de Dulfaza Goyeneche. Governance, Chair Aida Tiongson, Vice Chair J.J. Moreno. Health, Chair Rak Magurangan, Vice Chair Ted Padilla, Next Gen Vice Chair Chito Maniago. ICT, Chair Helen Makasaet, Co-Vice Chair Bong Paloma, Co-Vice Chair Teddy Sumulong, Next Gen Vice Chair Benedict Carandang. Infrastructure, Chair Eddie Yap, Vice Chair Jaiser Sikat, Next Gen Vice Chair Stan Nong. MAP Management Plan of the Year Judging Committee, Chair Lilian de Lima, Vice Chair Ed Chua. MAP Management of the Year Search Committee, Chair Babes Singson, Vice Chair Gigi Montinola. Membership, Chair Babes Singson, Vice Chair Gigi Montinola, Next Gen Vice Chair Mike Nakadamay. Subcommittee on Recruitment, Vice Chair Dada Del Carmen. Subcommittee on Retention and Engagement, Vice Chair Cynthia Mamon. Subcommittee on Visayas, Vice Chair Melanie Nong. National Issues Committee or NIC, Chair Babe Singson, Vice Chair Gigi Montinola, Next Gen Vice Chair Raul Villegas. Next Gen, Chair Cliff Ayala, Next Gen Co-Vice Chair Donna Lina, Next Gen Co-Vice Chair Delisa Di Ridoloso. Nomination and election. Chair Malu Cristobal, Vice Chair Ding Nera. PPP, Chair Babe Singson, Vice Chair Woods Garcia, Next Gen Vice Chair Chris Botianlun. Social Prosperity, Chair Rex Dillon, Vice Chair Betty Handy, Next Gen Vice Chair Joanne Kowa. Special Projects, Chair Nina Mangio, Vice Chair Perry Ferrer. Sports, Fellowship, and Wellness, Chair Ben Perez Litable, Vice Chair Ebon An, Next Gen Vice Chair George Carlos. Strategic HR Management, Chair Monsimus Mundo, Vice Chair J.E. Orbeta, Next Gen Vice Chair Emmy Castro. Tax, Chair Uni Hata Perez, Co-Vice Chair Malu Lim, Co-Vice Chair Harold Reseles. Tech Startup, Chair Aldi Garcia, Co-Vice Chair Maylene Mabiba, Co-Vice Chair Patrick Raidenka, Next Gen Vice Chair DJ Manuel. Tourism, Chair Judy Del Mundo, Vice Chair Alma Jimenez, Next Gen Vice Chair Long Ferrer. Trade and Investments, Chair Charlie Villasenor, Vice Chair Rosemary Ong. Next Gen Vice Chair Sheila Lobien. Urban Development, Chair June Palafox. Vice Chair Rick Danao. Next Gen Vice Chair Raymond Rufino. Water, Chair Babe Singson. Co-Vice Chair Jocot De Dios. Co-Vice Chair Mon Fernandez. Next Gen Vice Chair Mike Warren. And to lead the induction of the 2023 MAP Chairs and Vice Chairs, may now call on our inducting officer, the Chair Committee on Ways and Means of the House of Representatives, Congressman Joey S. Salceda. Rise to the solemnity of the occasion.
Nakalatayo ba yung height mo? Please raise your hand. I, your name, having been elected to the position of the Management Association of the Philippines, do hereby solemnly pledge that I will discharge well and faithfully, to the best of my ability, the duties of my office, and help advance the objectives of the MAP. So help me God. Congratulations, and let's give them a clap.
Thank you, Congressman Salceda. In line with the MAP policy, in line with the MAP policy and in the interest of time, we will disperse with a lengthy introduction of our guest speakers. Their profiles will be flashed on the screen. I would like to remind our speakers that you are given 20 minutes each for your respective presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our first speaker, the Operations Manager for Brunei, Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand of World Bank, Dr. ACHIM FOCK. At this point, may I call on... sorry, Dr.
Good afternoon, everybody. Congressman Salceda, Madam President, all the leaders and organizers and the members of the Management Association of the Philippines. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I will talk about the Philippines economic update, Racing for Headwinds, Advancing Food Security. This is based on the publication which we published late last year, with a bit of update on our latest numbers, including latest global numbers. The first slide is about the key messages of our report. The Philippines economy has remained resilient despite a challenging global environment. The deteriorating global environment, however, is spilling into the domestic economy and tempering the country's growth prospect in 2023. And addressing immediate challenges of elevated inflation, staying the course on fiscal consolidation, sustaining investment in health and education, and reversing the low agriculture productivity will be the key to safeguard growth and achieve long-term economic development goals. I have three sections of my presentation. The first one is on an update of the recent developments and policies. And the main story here is that the Philippines has remained very resilient despite a challenging global environment. I will talk mainly about 2022. The post-pandemic recovery is fully underway, driven by strong domestic demand. The economy expanded by 7.6% year-on-year in 2022, fueled by strong demand. This is faster than 5.7% in 2024. Domestic activity was buoyant by the economic reopening, release of pent-up demand, and improved labor market conditions. The reopening benefited the contact-intensive service sectors, especially transportation, wholesale and retail trade, and accommodation and food services, while public infrastructure investment program fueled construction and industry growth. Manufacturing growth remained strong, but moderated in line with tempered merchandise export demand and base effects from the previous year. Agriculture performed only modestly amid the impact of typhoons, rising input costs, and low sectoral productivity. On the demand side, private consumption accelerated on the back of recovering household incomes and sustained remittances growth. Fixed capital investment growth anchored on renewed private sector optimism and sustained public investment. However, government consumption slowed as the government continued to unwind fiscal support for the pandemic, with net exports remained a drag and imports surpassing export growth. Next slide is on the balance of payments. The deficit, along with the rising interest rates differential and general strengthening of the US dollars, led to a significant depreciation of the peso. In the first 3 quarters of 22, robust domestic demand and high commodity prices underpinned a surge in merchandise imports, which outpaced the growth in net services exports and foreign remittances. This led to a widening of the current account deficit from 0.8% of GDP in the first 3 quarters of 21 to 6.1% of GDP in the first 3 quarters of 22. This was financed by increased borrowings and net financial inflows. The balance of payments reversed from a surplus of 1.3% of GDP to a deficit of 4.8% of GDP in the first 3 quarters of 22. The BOP shortfall, along with the rising interest rate differential and the general strengthening of the US dollar, led to a 9.6% average depreciation of the peso in 2022. Still, however, after the weakening of the peso to US dollars 58.8% in October, the peso has recovered to 55 pesos per US dollar by the end of the year and a little further since. Inflation accelerated during the year 22 due to price pressures from elevated global commodity prices and a tight domestic food supply. Headline inflation averaged 5.8% in 22, higher than 3.9% in 21. High global commodity prices and currency depreciation fueled domestic inflation, as the country is a net importer of most staple foods, fertilizer, and fuel. In addition, weather disturbances and low domestic production of certain commodities such as sugar and salt have also pushed food prices higher. Higher energy prices spilled over to utilities and transportation costs. Excluding volatile food and energy items, core inflation rose to 3.9% in 22. The increase indicated underlying price pressures and heightened inflation expectations in recent months. In response to rising inflation and peso depreciation, the BSP has tightening its monetary policy. Between May and December 22, it raised its key policy rate by 350 basis points to 5.5%, and it has signaled further increases in step with the relatively hawkish monetary stance of the Fed. Higher revenue collection and lower than program expenditure led to a narrow fiscal deficit in the first 3 quarters of 22. Public revenues increased to 17.1% of GDP, and that's also for the first 3 quarters of 22, compared to 60.3% same period last year, or 21. Customs collection exceeded its target amid strong imports demand and higher excess tax collection. Internal revenue collection rose on more robust domestic activity and efforts to strengthen digitalization and tax administration. Meanwhile, public spending declined from 24.6% of GDP to 23.6% during this same 3-quarter period. Current spending retreated in line with efforts to unwind the pandemic support, while capital spending fell short of the government program. The increase in public revenues and the decline in public spending led to a narrower fiscal deficit from 8.3% of GDP to 6.5% of GDP in Q1 to Q3 2022. The robust economic growth, redemption of government securities, and peso appreciation against the dollar in the last quarter helped reduce the debt level. National government debt reached 13.4 trillion pesos, or 60.9% of GDP at the end of 22, which is an improvement from 63.7% at the end of the quarter, and lower than 61% at the target, which was the target of the government's medium-term fiscal framework. On a yearly basis, however, the debt ratio is still an increase from 60.4% in 2021. The debt composition remains favorable, with a very high share of peso-dominated, more than 2/3 of total debt, and medium to long-term debt. More than 95% of the debt is medium to long-term. The asset quality and profitability of banks improved as the economic reopening boosted business conditions. The economic reopening boosted the cash flow of borrowers, improving their ability to service debt. As a result, the structuring loans to total loans ratio declined from 3.1% in September 21 to 2.8% in September 22. Moreover, the gross non-performing loans, NPLs, declined from 3.4% in September 22, its lowest since September 2020, but still higher than pre-pandemic level. These development increases decreased the financial buffers of the banking sector as the NPL coverage ratio reached 100% in August 22. Banking sector profitability indicators have also largely rebounded. In September 22, the return on asset and return on equity ratios reached 1.5 and 11.5% respectively, again their highest since March 2020. Bank lending to the private sector expanded amidst stronger domestic demand. Private capital grew by 10.1% in September 22, up from 3.2% during the same period last year, but still lower than the borrowing reported in March 2020. The credit growth was driven by improving domestic activity amid the economic reopening, and it represented a turnaround from the anemic private sector growth brought by pandemic restriction and depressed business confidence recorded the previous year. The expansion of private credit also coincided with the BSP's tightening monetary stance, indicating robust credit demand despite higher interest rates. The money supply grew by 6.1% in September 22, lower than the double-digit growth recorded during the BSP's policy support in the early days of the pandemic. I now come a bit to the outlook looking ahead. And the overall picture, as I said, is that the growth is strong, but the deteriorating global environment spilling into the domestic economy and tempering the country's growth prospect for 2023. Global growth, in particular, is expected to decelerate quite sharply to 1.7% in 2023. This is the third weakest pace of growth in nearly 3 decades, only overshadowed by the global recession caused by the pandemic itself, as well as the global financial crisis. This is 1.3 percentage points below previous forecasts. We downgraded our forecast, reflecting economist policy tightening and containing high inflation, worsening financial conditions, and continued disruptions from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The United States, the Euro area, and China are all undergoing a period of weaknesses as a resulting scale of markets accelerating other headwinds faced by emerging markets and developing economies. The combination of slow growth, tightening financial conditions, and heavy indebtedness is likely to weaken investment and trigger corporate defaults. Growth projections have been downgraded for almost all advanced economies and about 2/3 of all emerging market and development economies in 2023, and about half of all countries also in 2024. Robust domestic activity is however driving growth in 2022, but the deteriorating global environment that I just referred to is spilling into the economy and tempering its growth prospect. The Philippine economy is projected to grow at 5.4% in 2023, before rising again an average of 5.9% in 2024 to 2025. The unfavorable external environment and spillover the domestic economy likely slow the growth momentum in 2023, and its premise on the fading of pent-up demand alongside elevated inflation and higher interest rate environment that will also temper domestic demand. The higher rates will lead to lower private credit and subdued investment as a critical time when public investment growth is expected to slow in line with financial fiscal consolidation and the program decline of public infrastructure spending. Global growth is expected to decelerate, so external demand from advanced economies, which are key buyers of the Philippines' merchandise exports. Medium-term growth will gradually approach its potential rate of 5.7% as the output gap closes in line with the cyclical recovery. The growth outlook is subject to downside risks at a time when the authorities face the challenging task of supporting recovery while taming inflation amid narrowing policy space. With central banks across the world rising interest rates to combat inflation and governments withdrawing pandemic-related fiscal support, the coronavirus policy actions could produce larger impacts than intended, both in tightening fiscal consolidation and deepening the growth slowdown. The fear here is that moderate shocks can tilt the global economy into recession, which have dire consequences for recovery of many emerging market and development economy, including in the Philippines. This fear is aggravated by the risk of an escalation of geopolitical tensions and supply chain bottlenecks could further disrupt commodity markets and international trade. Escalating tension has already led to the curtailment of energy supplies to Europe. While most global commodity prices have eased since June, they remain higher than the averages in the past 5 years. And the current period of elevated inflation, if the current period of elevated inflation persists and de-anchors inflation expectations, central banks might accelerate the pace of monetary policy tightening with consequences on credit and capital flow. Finally, the pandemic has yet to be declared fully over. The risk of another COVID outbreak hangs over the outlook. The labor market continued to recover, but the recovery is underscored by a higher share of low-quality jobs than before the pandemic. The economy reopening allowed more individuals to participate and find jobs in the labor market. The labor force participation rate rose to 67.5% in November 2022, above the pandemic level of 61.7%. With increased labor force participation, the unemployment rate declined from 6.5% in November 21 to 4.2% in November 22. This indicates that the labor market accommodated job seekers, including labor market entrants and young adults. Unemployment, which was high and volatile during the pandemic, appeared to be stabilizing on a downward trend in 22, although it rose a bit between June and November. Nevertheless, the employment recovery was accommodated by a higher share of elementary occupations associated with low pay and part-time workers than at the pre-pandemic level. For example, looking at January 2020. There's also been an increase in the share of self-employed and non-paid workers, indicating growing informality in the labor market. As the economy is projected to maintain its growth momentum, some labor market initiatives recover, poverty reduction is likely to follow suit. Using the World Bank's poverty line for low-middle-income countries of 6.75% US dollars a day, poverty incidence is projected to decrease from 19.5% in 21 to 16.8% in 22 and will continue to decline through 2024. Finally, a few policy recommendations. First, the immediate domestic challenge that faces the authority is rising and high domestic inflation. High inflation will dampen household consumption while the ensuing policy rate tightening can borrowings and investments. Inflationary pressure comes from multiple fronts, including elevated commodity and energy prices, international supply chain and logistics disruptions, currency appreciation, recovery demand, and domestic supply constraints caused by weak agricultural output and impacts of natural disasters. Addressing these inflationary pressure means employing both monetary and non-monetary measures, including clear importation, lower tariffs and non-tariff barriers to help augment domestic supply as needed, support to agriculture production through extension services, seed, fertilizer and support, and key policy hikes. Second, continued near-term monetary tightening is appropriate to prevent a de-anchoring of inflation expectations. High inflation intends to inflict the greatest harm on low-income households where inflation often outpaces wage growth, which these households rely on. Poorer households suffer disproportionately given the higher share of food and energy on their expenditures. Monetary tightening is appropriate to prevent self-fulfilling expectations on rising inflation. Moreover, communicating monetary policy decisions clearly and leveraging credible monetary frameworks will help limit the economic impact of the tightening cycle. Thirdly, staying the course on fiscal consolidation signals commitment to fiscal sustainability. Fiscal consolidation has become more challenging as the current high inflation environment, which makes the government expand social support programs or extend subsidies at a time of narrower fiscal space. Targeted and blanket social assistance measures will help manage expenditure growth while maximizing returns on programs. Eliminating spending inefficiency and increasing money in public procurements will be instrumental to consolidation strategy. The authority will also need to employ new tax policy and administration measures to mobilize resources. Over the medium term, building fiscal buffers diminished during the height of the pandemic will help mitigate against downside risks. The proposed 2023 national government budget lays out the medium-term fiscal consolidation agenda with the target to reduce the fiscal deficit by 3.5 percentage points of GDP between 2022 and 2025. Despite public spending slowdown, it remains important to sustain investment in health and education to reduce vulnerabilities from scaring the impact of the pandemic. The threat of a new variant surge hangs over the outlook. The country is, however, better equipped to respond to re-emerging threats with high population vaccination coverage and effective public health protocols. Shocks from the COVID pandemic, however, have manifested themselves in childhood malnutrition and stunting and reduced student learning, especially among the poor. If unmitigated, these shocks may have persistent impacts on people's well-being and damage future productivity, earnings, and innovations. For this reason, sustained investment in nutrition and education and health are imperative despite pressure of fiscal consolidation. Finally, over the medium term, effective public spending in the agricultural sector also help address low agricultural productivity and alleviate the challenge of food security in the country. Comprising less than 10% of GDP, agriculture has marginally contributed to economic growth in the past decades. Low productivity has hampered domestic food production, which in turn influences the volatility of consumer price inflation. Nonetheless, the sector employs a disproportionate share of the labor force. It significantly contributes to the household consumption basket, especially among the poor, and is therefore crucial to the delivery of inclusive growth. The growth prospect remains poor due to a combination of chronic underinvestment and intense vulnerability to weather-related shocks. To this end, the efficient use of public funds for public investments will help address the structural constraints of the sector and deliver better services, including extension services, stronger value chain systems, and improved business climate for agri-food systems. I come to the end of my presentation. Just to repeat the main messages again, the Philippines has remained resilient despite challenges in the global environment. Moving forward, this is expected to be the same. However, the deteriorating global environment is spilling into the domestic economy and tempering the growth prospect for 2023 and addressing the challenges of elevated inflation is most immediate, as well as staying the course on fiscal consolidation while sustaining investment in health and education, as well as agriculture. With this, I close. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akifo, for sharing your Philippine economic update. At this point, we call on our second speaker, the Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means of the House of Representatives. Please welcome Congressman Joey Salceda.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm here, parang may disclaimer, no? I'm here as a financial analyst, not as a chairman. Can we start the presentation? Thank you, Dick. For the invitation. Thank you very much. So this is the economic outlook. That's my problem because I can say something about a lot of things that are happening in Congress. I'm right in the middle of it. So anyway, so the outline legislation called outlook, the development strategy, structure, issues, prosecution, and other key reforms next. I just went through the entire Asia in October, name it. You know, the first thing I noticed is the fact that no matter how compared all the incentives regime, the Philippines has the best free trade. Kaso, pag tinanong yung power cost, you buy. Once they start asking about, for example, 6 pesos only in Thailand. In fact, Thailand is able to use the hydro resources of Burma. And the second one is, I met that their DI, their DOI, their DOF, in simple Tagalog, walang buo muna sa usap. I'm not saying that in our country something else, but I was really amazed. Their technocracy and their bureaucracy are well developed. I don't know if they pay them well, presumably. So, the ease of doing business is something that stands out immediately. Why they're getting all the investments. And then, when I was in Thailand, the first thing they put, why invest in Thailand? So their BOI says, number 1, land ownership, because they're the only one which allows land ownership. And of course, in the Philippines, so strictly about it. Number 3, and I will show you a chart here. Maiiwan tayo sa Oman because there is Indo-China economic integration that is essentially they're moving around and gaining advantage from trade with Vietnam and Thailand, Burma. In fact, there are 5 billion Burmese or Myanmar. They just go over the bridge and work in Thai factories for cheaper labor. And we don't have that advantage. And they're able to get the power. And in fact, there's a train. Can you show that? There. You look at that one. You can immediately see that around Thailand, looking down as far down as the Eastern Myanmar, down Thailand, Peninsular Malaysia, is really integration. These are the lights from the satellites. Just go back to page 1. No. Next. And then one thing here in the business, I'm speaking now as a political economist. On the public side, there's really the dynastic oligarchic character prevents people from coming in. I think we have to do some soul searching for our big business here. Do you really want partners or do you want competition? It's open, true, but once you enter, you better talk to babes or otherwise you won't get it. That's our problem here. It's so oligarchic and it's so dynastic in politics. And then lastly, however, I compared all the incentives in the region. The Philippines has the best. Under Create. I compared it piece by piece, word for word, and everything. We have the best, especially the blue whale provision. And if you invest 1 billion here, the president is authorized to give you anything you want. Anyway, next. So what is the growth outlook? Well, businesses will continue to expect demand growth, but signs are, of course, just like World Bank, we see slower growth this year, next. So most likely the revenge spending, I think this quarter you will feel that the revenge spending will be slower in this quarter. So we're monitoring quarter by quarter. In terms of the remittances, the first quarter every year is always lower than the prior quarter. Next. On the positive side, consumers have summer for spending in 2020. Share of household savings increased across the board. But we need to fight inflation to protect the value saving. Yun ang natin. Ayun ang mababa savings. I'm really sorry for the foreigners, but please just appreciate me to interpret for me. So, however, I didn't have a good tourism this year. That's calling you the UNWTO. So you will have the quad of BPO, OFW, basically electronics and tourism providing us enough dollars to pay for what we import because of our uncompetitiveness. And I think the BSP, despite all the sensitive declaration rates, we have 75 basis points this year. But expect impact credit will be minor. So we have these surveys essentially. The high rate have been adopted at momentum tend to borrow in 2023. Next. Overall, we heard in March 2022 of 7.6. We're still looking at 5.5. Ayaw ko mapagalitan ng administration. Kasi nagyayatan ng World Bank 5.4, which is our low-end. Joke lang. And the key headwind is outside of the external headwinds is really kasi pag tinignan mo, ang Pilipinas, andyan dati yung mga factors na yan. Ano yung isang bagay na din natin na is really inflation. So the deflator will be higher, therefore, the gross GDP is will be lower. So 2023 is lower, but the report is possible. I see inflation, monitoring lives since 1990 when I was at 9, then will not fall below 5. Next. Anong problema? Corn. Say natin. Tapos yung magagamit ng corn. Meat, fish, milk. Because aquaculture uses vegetables. Next. So prices are about to go down. Sugar prices and anyway, next. So next. So these are the plans which have already been discussed by our president, our chairperson. Next. So this is the 8-point agenda. Ito yung the strategy framework of the PEP. Back. So it's a 3-point agenda. Back. So one, essentially you have reserved seats, develop capabilities of individuals and families, social society, work, production sectors, work quality jobs, modernize environment, modernize agriculture, revitalize industry, integrate services. Parang lahat naman ang ating dyan sa sinasabi. Next. So it's really the quality of the policy. The devil is in the details, basically. And of course, the policy commitments. Next. I just put in that you have an easy reference. Next. This is the first batch, and then the approved. Basically, the cancer institute but they have 203 projects. I would have slumped it down your throats today, but I think we'll just provide you. Next. So what are the structural issues? Far better deal with structural issues. Why the Philippines? Hindi yun natin makuha sa gusto natin, pangarap natin. One, it's in our favor that the Philippines, the last among all ASEAN countries where our population will go down. It's only by 2092. Everybody else is 60 years or 30 years earlier than us, which means we have a very young population. Kaya natutuwa ako sa mga next-gen vice chairperson ng MAP. Next. Pag tingnan mo, in terms of tertiary schools, because I always look at India, Vietnam, and bars. Our tertiary school enrollment is highest for English speaking. Also the highest. The median age is also the lowest. Population is smartphones. We have the highest. And the best of all, our fertility rate. My goodness, every woman in the Philippines, despite all efforts, has 1.7 children on the average. Long live the Filipino uterus. But that is really where our strength comes from. But without major resolution, this could affect the country's medium-term prospects. Next. So we looked at all in terms of labor cost, power cost. Just look at the power cost. Duties are imported. So I think essentially the Philippines excels in non-economic factors, but labor power costs and EOD really hampered our growth. Yeah, that shows my biggest fear that we will be left behind by an Indo-China economic integration. So they can trade among each other, leaving us behind. We will be insignificant. We have to look at our own advantage. We have to develop our own comparative advantages. Next. And our country's problems. That's why I don't know whether agriculture, our arable land is 18.2, but cultivated land is 36. Our irrigated land, that's our problem, is only 6%. Agriculture GDP is 9.6, but the support, public support, in other words, not only budget and everything, we have the highest support already to agriculture. Actually, this is in terms of tariffs, everything. So I don't know why we're still having problems with agriculture. In fact, in Vietnam, they almost have an export tax. But Vietnam support the share of farm receipts is negative due to export taxes. Next. Well, land ownership remains too restrictive, as I said. Next. Agricultural giants in Australia actually own foreign ownership. May makikita ka dyan. Yung Netherlands. Lang yung namimili ng lupa sa labas ng Netherlands. They always come out top 5 buyer of owning land outside of Netherlands. Whether in the US, in Australia. Pero I don't know what the fear is Filipinos because Foreign ownership of land anywhere in the world does not go beyond 3%. Anyway. Ibenta natin sa kanila yung mga joke lang. Next. And if you look at the fish supply, look at again. The Philippines is the only one dependent on capture. The rest of Asia is already aquaculture. Even China, we are accusing of stealing our fish in West Philippine Sea. Actually depends on aquaculture. What's our big problem? In fact, if you look again at the statistics of BOC, and I came there yesterday, we only imported 31,000 metric tons of fish, which is totally impossible. Siguro because they already can the fish outside in the ships. Of course, Ligo does that. Century does that. So it doesn't appear as part of the culture, basically. But look at that. This is one where we can really make a headway in promoting aquaculture. Not necessarily inland, but it surprises you. China. 8% of their fish comes from aquaculture. Next. And this is my biggest problem. Because of high power cost, there's no foreign direct investment, and therefore our average wage is very low. If we just come from 650, what else is left to save? So I always say that the minimum wage here should be 1,000. Please don't sigawan nyo, no? Para may matira para sa pension, may matira para sa housing, may matira para sa health. Kasi kung hindi, wala rin. But you've got to get our power costs down. Anyway, next. And because they earn less than the regional counterparts. Look at that. Vietnam is now higher than us because of FDI. I can show the direct relationship. Next. And look at that. We're paying actually for this year, last year. Our estimate is that this country paid China $57 billion in trade deficit. 57 billion. Everything we heard from BPOs and OFW, just go back to China. This is based on and our actual exports. So 150 billion, my goodness. Our trade deficit alone were... Next. So high power costs will entrench inflation, also entrench oligopolies. High power costs means low foreign direct investment. Low FDI means low domestic market competition. Low domestic market competition means high overall costs. And therefore inflation is structural. Next. Look at the power cost. Singapore mas mahal sa atin. But look at the others. Look at Laos, Myanmar. 2 pesos. Kaya ang dali-dali from Thailand, I think they're shifting investments towards Burma, were it not for that political problem. Because it's easier for them to get the same low wages. Next. So what to do? Power cost, food, and ease of doing business. Which brings me to local autonomy. I don't know. The anecdotal there's ang daming chismis. Food costs essentially road wages, low real wages result in low savings result in low housing, low healthcare, and low household wealth. I've seen several studies which show that 97% of all the wealth in France comes from home ownership. In the US, as well as Britain, it is 78% of the total household wealth comes from home ownership. So if we cannot give our workers a decent wage to own a home, we will remain poor. You can look at all the literature and telling you that's a big black hole for the Philippines. It's something that we can do something about. Anyway, power costs drive business costs, high business costs drive higher rates, higher rates reduce FDI, low FDI goes to low market competition, consumer welfare. Low EDB increases regulatory burden, higher regulatory burden increases risk, especially corruption, and higher risk reduces investor appetite. Next. So what do we do with power cost? Ito ang pinakalaking problema ko. Power costs are a function of how scarce the world. There are guys already. I hope I can quote Philip Medalla. Now, Philip, can we do another era wherein we slump anything above 7 pesos, put it in some kind of a board of liquidators. Every time it goes lower than that, we put money into it. If it's higher than 7, then it spends for it. And then suddenly, my analyst next. Back. These are all the CB balls. The Philippines is very good at addressing systematically its fiscal issues. With the IPIRA, essentially the debt was 1.4, now it's down to only 200. So it's no longer a problem. With the Central Bank, it was 25% of GDP, fully paid. Hindi nyo na pansin na yung lahat ng problema natin sa DBP, PNB was fully paid. And then the proposed Bayanihan was supposed to 7%, but of course, ayaw ng DOF. The cost to reduce 7 pesos is 6 trillion. That is the kind of central bank board of regulator type of instrument that we need to create in order to reduce it to 7 pesos. So, tinanong ko si Philip, okay ba sa'yo? Ang sabi niya, let the dinosaurs. Increase supply and let the dinosaurs fail. Sabihin, go back. There. That's Germany. Despite all the oil increase, my goodness, their power costs went down. Why? Excess wind power. We have a lot of wind in the Philippines, in Congress. So essentially, but look at it. How demand and supply essentially determine lack of supply. So ang problema kasi, ipit tayo dun sa mga binenta nating IP na puro coal, paano mo i-dispose yun? Willing ka ba naman na mamatay yung mga malalaki nating kumpanya? Papasukin natin lahat ng renewable. Let's say, SARTE wants to invest 4,000 megawatts of wind power in Bataan with turbines in the shore. And they're here very aggressively. Once they come in, what happens to the coal? What happens to Western prices? It will collapse. And therefore there will be corporate failure. So how do you deal with that? I said, okay, let's deal with it with this kind of instrument. So I talked to Polotilya kasi sabi ni Philip, let the dinosaurs die. Sabi ko, wala namang mature eh. And then I talked to Polotilya. Sabi, why don't we do this? It is a systematic orderly of addressing our legacy issues with power. And he told me let the market pay for the cost. Therefore, I conclude. Anyway, I don't know how to conclude. Because I want to change that. I've been telling them. Let the power come in and let the dinosaurs fail. Ang dami mamamatay dyan. Diyos ko. Isa-isa ba yung malaking kumpanya? Na mas mura ang renewable energy? Diyos mio. 6 trillion is what we need in order to reduce power costs from the current to only 7 pesos, which I believe is still higher, but still more comfortable given some of our other advantages. So we need a base load and a peak load. The base load probably is hydropower turbine and OTEC, and probably we cannot leave nuclear off the table. Next. Can you show my Taiwan? No? There is, when I went to Taiwan, I really went around to say I couldn't find any inspiration already. Do you know there's a coal-powered, they have a nuclear there. It's 2,000 megawatts. It's gonna be decommissioned still 30 years more life. But they're commissioning starting this year. But I'm just crazy. That's why I said I came here as a provocateur. Basically, to expand your imagination about our country. So anyway, so binilang namin next. So mababawasan lahat next. We went all the nuclear plants of next. So mababawasan ng 1 peso yung 10 pesos. So 2 piso na hahanapin ko. Through submarine cable. Ewan kung papayag ang mga Pilipino dyan. Mas okay yata sila magbayad ng mahal na kuryente. Kahit anong gawin mo, kahit tumamang ka pa dyan bukas. Isa lang ang solusyon. Fiscal subsidy. Ayaw ni Philip. Tinanong si Lutilla. Let the market pay. So where would that put us in terms of power, competitiveness? Gano'ng kaganda? Anyway, next. So what to do with high food costs? Next. So we've been doing this. We have all these near-term recommendations. The president next, essentially. So wala na. Lowering corn prices is impossible because imported corn is now more expensive than domestic corn. And corn is everything right now to food inflation. You disaggregate it. Next. So expand irrigation, improve productivity, govern water sources more effectively. And this is one thing. If I were the president of this country, I will only do one thing. Allow foreign scientists and give them citizenship. Why would I repeat all the Diba? What do you mean? I put up a new college, university, UP, and everything like that. Spend all those equipment, which are probably patented anyway. I'll hire all the foreign scientists because technology is essentially embedded. Anyway, next. So what do we do with ODB, re-engineer compliance, remove archaic requirements, those arbitrary discussion. And I think one thing we need is to have an RDC, stronger RDC. Para there is coordination and integration of LGU, planning, resource planning, as well as with the national, inter-LGU and national. Otherwise, it's so fragmented. Next. Ilan pa bang pages yan? So other issues. Rethinking the Maharlika Investment Fund. Para naman in my defense, it's a simple naman, the president just dropped me somewhere, no? Next. Sige, next. So ito talaga yung propose. We use the dividends. There are 172 billion dividends. Yung mga ibang dividends are governed by all sorts of things. So we pick those dividends that can be securitized. You securitize 44 billion, you get 786 billion. So wala nang gagawin. I don't have need regulatory relief from BSP. I do not need regulatory relief from DOF. No sovereign guarantees. Next. So basically, hindi naman lahat eh. So, and then you do IPO. Yun lang ang hihingi ko. Total, pinabigyan nyo yung SPNEC, yung mga PSC dito. Di ba? Yung 5-year minimum requirement for listing. But we can immediately ask World Bank, who is here, to take pre-IPO strategic partnership. We securitize 766 billion. We can raise 1.2 trillion from only 44 billion. The magic of financial engineering. That's what Swiss Bank taught me. No, I went through ING, Barings, Swiss Bank, Warburg. So that's what they taught me. So I just used it. I will just use all the dividends. I will only use 44 out of the 172 billion dividends, which are not covered by any compliance. Like BSP dividend, no. Land Bank dividend, no. No GOCC exemption, no GCC exemption. Virtually the only exemption I will ask is from PSE, the 5-year compliance. 5-year. It would have worked, pero I couldn't speak. I was, how do you call that? Under an NDA. But for MMA, I don't think I can violate that. I worked on it after Christmas. I cannot name my conspirators. But definitely, this would have worked. For only 44 billion, I will raise 1.2 trillion for development. Yan yung mga pili ko. PDIC, which we have already overcapitalized by 30 billion. Land Bank, ay ginamit pala natin. PAGCOR. So you can see, we did not use everything. We chose those dividends that were not essentially captured or compromised. Next. Tapos, meron 151.82 billion from private. So there was a provision there which says, while waiting for the IFCs and the World Bank or the ADBs from taking strategic partnership. So it will be a private company from the start. That was the plan. That was the mahal that we had vision. It would have worked because it will have none of the things that FAF would throw at us. Nothing. So I don't have to do this anymore. So we can raise the valuation of 765 using IPO, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that was the... And there was there, the 44 billion, if you raise it, and we will put provision that the 44 billion will just essentially be used for the same thing that would have been used under GA. So it's just a transfer. But it is the securitization that matters. The 20-year securitization. Next. So this is how this is pattern from the Singapore Wealth Fund. Please demystify the word wealth and the word. Well, not sovereign. But the concept, it is an investment fund. It's not a GOCC. Anyway, I don't want to discuss any further. I don't want to get... So there is now in the House, we are under very serious discussion of a constitutional change. Limited con para sa ECON, but it was only tried in Nigeria in 1960. So once you have a constitutional convention, you cannot limit its topics. Well, ang ginawa sa Nigeria, they had a Cong and gave it to the Con. Discuss this only. And then it went into plebiscite in 1960. I don't know sino pa yung ano doon. The economic provisions have already been circuitously circumvented by our lawyers together with Congress. So, ang natitira lang is landlordship, mass media, advertising, and professions. So ako, please don't tell the speaker, because I am supposed to be part of this big thing. Mine is really political liberation. It's how we manage ourselves as a people that really pulls us down. Despite all our socio-demographic, social-cultural advantages. And I hope EDCA is an advantage. So, the provisions that are for amendment, the exploration and development of natural resources, that's mining. You already have 100% foreign mining company in Nueva Vizcaya. Ownership of educational institution. You have the British school here. Done through a presidential decree. AIM. And then you have SARTE investments. Ownership of mass media, and everybody has Netflix, has CNN. I don't know whether it matters at all. Next. So the longer the Constitution, the dysfunctional the economy. I found this thing in OECD. A long Constitution is bad Constitution. It is more rigid, and in practice, generally. The Philippines has a constitution, one of the longest in the world, with 22,000 words compared to the American Constitution, with only 4,500 words. It is generally more corrupt, generally has low GDP. I don't know whether you trust the OECD, but that comes from their study. Next. Parliamentary system better than presidential systems. Next. And term limits create poor fiscal economic decision making. So I have a data to support that term limits create dynasties, and dynasties are bad. Leads to oligarchies, basically. So if you look at this, it says that term limits has one of the biggest negative impact on growth rate as well as income. Anyway, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, you cannot legislate culture. That's why they don't have term limits. Anyway, next. So these are the laws addressing the constitutional restrictions. Next. So, I know later na lang to. We're supposed to answer one of the questions that was already posed to me in my this is my answer to you. Anyway, so thank you very much. Magsusolo ko dito.
Thank you, Congressman Salceda, for a very informative and interesting report on the Philippine economic outlook. We will now proceed to the Q&A. May I ask all our speakers to take seats on the stage, please? May I also call on our guest panelist, Dr. Kevin Chua, country economist of World Bank, to take his seat on stage, please. May I also call our moderator for today, Dr. Shell Habito, Governor in charge of the MAP Cluster on Resilience and Recovery, the chair of Brain Trust Incorporated, and a professor at the Ateneo Manila University. There are microphones on the floor for use in asking your questions. Please be brief. Please refrain from making a speech. Please wait to be acknowledged before you ask your questions. We are now ready for the Q&A.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. We barely have time left for this open forum because we were scheduled to have. It's okay. We were scheduled to have started discussion by 1:30. So I just like to ask, can we give ourselves 15 minutes at least? Because it's already almost 2 o'clock. We were supposed to end at 2. But Madam President, would it be okay? We assume we have 15 minutes for this. So we'll have to be quick with our questions and answers as well. But let me just lead it off. We have of course, Dr. Kevin Chua, the country economist of the World Bank in the Philippines, who's also here to help address whatever questions there may be. But let me lead it off with a couple of questions. First, I'll start with our first speaker, Kim. By the way, one thing that comes through clearly in both presentations is the critical importance of food and agriculture. And the World Bank has long known to have a very good program in the Philippines. It started as a Mindanao Rural Development Program, or MRDP, and they upscaled it nationwide and turned it into the Philippine Rural Development Program, PRDP. So I did want to ask our World Bank colleagues, in spite of this highly acknowledged and widely recognized program, and we still have this situation of low productivity in agriculture, which is what leads to these high prices we're seeing right now. Where did we go wrong? I mean, what would you have done better in the PRDP if you had a chance to start over again on that? I hope that's a fair question. Kevin.
Thank you so much. Interesting question. First of all, I'd like to give a lot of credit to the Filipinos, including the Filipinos administration, throughout the many years that the program, the Philippine Rural Development Program, was implemented. This is actually, a lot of it is homegrown, their design, and I think very well implemented. We actually sort of use this as an example throughout the world of a very well-run and quite transparent project. But to come to your questions, I think the most thing we should have done is actually to upskill earlier. Right? That program, just for those who don't know it, it focuses basically on providing local public services to the ground. Some is related to infrastructure, a lot of that farm-to-market roads, but also others, based on local planning, right, starting from provincial plans, municipality and barangay. Another focuses on value change, and most of this is really about diversification on the comparative advantages that the localities have. And I think these combination of good planning, transparent and good planning, engaging the localities and the farmers, as well as agri-food business, makes it a success. And if we had put more into this, rather than too much on specific commodity programs, I think the country would have been more successful in its agriculture development.
Well, I agree with that. I happen to be one of those who have long been advocating for less commodity-based budgeting in agriculture, more of functional budgeting. But Kevin, I wonder if you have something to add to that. You being the one much more familiar, obviously, than ACHIM on the local conditions, especially in agriculture, and of course, the rest of the economy.
So not really